Welcome everyone, I'm Mindy, and in today's video we are going to be using alcohol inks on acetate. This is a technique I seen Jennifer McGuire do a while back, and I've always wanted to try it to create these beautiful windows. And if you're joining me in the first few days of this video being released, this is also a part of a blog hop, so I will have that linked down below in the video description. Now, I had some products in mind that I wanted to work with, and so I chose colors based on those products. I will have the colors of ink that I'm using listed at the top of the screen, and I'm also going to be pulling in some alloy inks to add that beautiful shimmer to it. I'm also going to be using my blending solution to do the blending. Now, instead of Yupo paper, I'm using this clear acetate sheets from Simon Says Stamp. I just placed a paper towel down so that you can see everything better, but I did cut my acetate down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm just placing a few drops of each color down onto that acetate, and then I'm going to put on some of my blending solution. So this is going to help move the inks. Now, if you're not familiar with alcohol inks, they are a lot of fun to play with, but you want to make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area because the fumes can be really strong. I'm moving that alcohol ink around with the blending solution using this air blower tool, which is really great. You just squeeze it and it moves all that alcohol ink around. Now here I'm bringing in the sterling alloy and then adding a drop of that blending solution, and then I can move this around to mix in with those colors. Typically, when you're working with alcohol inks, you want to work on a non-porous surface, meaning the ink cannot sink into your substrate that you're using, which is why I'm using the acetate. Now, why I'm using acetate versus Yupo paper is I just wanted to try something different with my inks. I typically only use Yupo paper, but the acetate I thought looked really pretty. It gives it almost an ethereal look to it, really wispy. And for most of these, I will be using the other side of the sheet. I'm not going to use the side where all the alcohol ink is. For this particular background, I really love how that gilded or that gold flakes off, and that's one of my favorite features of using the alloys. I have one more background I'm going to create on screen here for you, and this one is using kind of that light pink and dark pink. One of my plans for this that I didn't get to finish in the video, but I want to use this with the wine glass that was recently released from Simon Says Stamp, part of their December release. So I'm going to be putting this off on the side, and I will definitely be creating a project with it later on. I just really thought that this dark red and light pink with a little mix of that gold would make a really good wine look for the wine glass. Now, one other background I didn't do on screen, but a trick I wanted to show you is I have some isopropyl alcohol in a spray bottle. You can only do this you can only put isopropyl alcohol in a spray bottle. Do not put blending solution in a spray bottle. But I have my isopropyl alcohol and I'm just going to spritz it. And you can see immediately how that reacts and adds all these little dots and texture to your alcohol ink background. Now, I didn't want that isopropyl alcohol to move my ink, so I held my blower back a little ways and just kind of puffed some air on there to help freeze that in place. Now here's a look at some of those finished backgrounds that I did. I'm just placing them over white cardstock so you can see how they turned out, which I think look really, really cool on acetate. So I needed to create a window. I have a hexagon here from the Hero Arts Hexagon Infinity Die that is going to fit inside of my hexagon snowflake over there, or the Snowflake Hexagon. So I trimmed that out, die cut my acetate with that hexagon, and then I'm gluing that to the back of my layered snowflake hexagon. I have about 3 or 4 layers of white cardstock. I added that acetate in the back, and then I placed one more of the white cardstock over the top to kind of help seal that in. The top of that hexagon snowflake is using the Luxe glitter paper. It is absolutely gorgeous and so sparkly. Now for a sentiment, I have a Hello Sentiment from the basic trio die set, and I layered that together as well. Now I really want to layer it so that I can put this across that hexagon and make it flush. So I layered it up, I trimmed off part of that hello, and then I also have the O separate. So there's one L in there that is going to line up with the edge of my hexagon. Now, because I'm adding that L on top of my hexagon line, everything else is flush. I didn't need to add anything behind that one L. I hope that all makes sense, but I just wanted to kind of skip that area so that it's all flush across. And this came out so gorgeous. For the second card that I'm going to create, I wanted to use a full panel, and this is one of the red ones that I had done. I took a Hero Arts rectangle nesting infinity die and created a frame. Then I lined that with some thin foam tape, and I'm going to add this on top of my acetate piece that's also 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm creating a little bit of a lift. I flipped it over, and now I'm adding my 3M foam tape, so it's a little bit more of a lift. So really what's happening is I'm sandwiching that acetate between my cardstock. Now I have the Winsome Branch, and I die cut that from white cardstock and also some matte gold cardstock and added that to the front using my liquid glue. For sentiment, I'm using the reverse birthday celebration. I added black cardstock behind that to add a little dimension. And then once again with my liquid glue, I'm just going to add that to the front of the card. Now these were super fun to create, and I really love the look of this on acetate. So I'm definitely going to be using the rest of the pieces that I had created. Now here you're going to notice I did change up my sentiment on that hello. The silver was just kind of too much silver in one place. So I did change that up to be that gold. And I think that helps make it stand out a little bit more. And then here is that full panel I created. So I will have all of the supplies listed down below in my video description and over on my blog as well. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you again soon.